Good morning, everyone. Today I have for you a video of all the books that I read in September. I believe there's about 9 in total, 3 of which I've already returned to the library and do not have to show you guys. I didn't realize I had done that, but I will post a little picture of the ones that I don't have to show you on the screen. That way you can see what they look like. The first one is The Doll Master by Joyce Carol Oates. Yeah, it looks like oats. Um, this one is it's a book with a couple different terror-ish stories in it, and I have to say I wasn't overly fond. The only one I remember distinctly is the first one where he is the doll master, and it's this kid growing up. He has this imaginary friend that tells him to steal dolls, and then you find out at the end of the story they're not actually dolls, but you kind of get the gist of it as you're going through. And it was fun to read, but it wasn't as creepy as I was hoping it was going to be. So that one, unfortunately, was a pass for me. Then I read The Darkest Time of Night by Jeremy Finley. This one was good. This one was an alien book, and I love me a good alien book. So basically, it's a story of this woman. It starts with her as a child, and she lives on the edge of a forest, and her father's adamant you can never ever go in the forest. So she grows up, she's an older woman, she has kids and grandkids, and one of her grandkids goes missing, and the brother saw it happen, and the last thing he says is the lights took him. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and it goes on this whole journey, and it explains a portion of her childhood that she can't remember, and it all kind of comes together, and she ends up finding her grandson because there's always a happy ending. And it's actually really interesting the way the government's kind of tied into the book, and the kind of the plot of that the aliens have for the world. It's a different kind of story that I hadn't seen played out before, so I thought that was really cool. Next, I'm going to go through the books that I own, and then I will do the books that I got from the library. So this one is Cold Mountain by Charles Frazier. I've seen the movie, and so I found the book at a book sale, and I grabbed it. And I have to say, I am just not the biggest fan of the book. I like the movie. I watched it when I was in junior high school, so it was a very, very long time ago. But I liked the movie, but the book was just a little bit boring and a little sluggish to get through. And it's all about this girl right here in the middle, played by Nicole Kidman. Her name is Ada, or Ada. I'm not sure. They mentioned how to pronounce it one time in the book, and I can't remember. But so it revolves around Ada. Her father has passed away, and she lives on this farm alone. And she's waiting for Inman to come home, who is played by Jude Law, gorgeous man, to be so that they can be together. And if you've seen the movie, you know how it ends. And I think this is supposed to be Ruby, who ends up working with Ada on the farm to help her survive because she has no idea how to work a farm by herself. And bits and pieces of it are very, very interesting. But as a whole, it was a little sluggish, a little slow. All the bits where Inman's walking home are really, really boring. And I found the parts on the farm to be the most interesting of the points of view. So I liked the book, but I'm not keeping it. I'll be donating this to Goodwill. Next, I read Berlin by Pierre Frey. I really, really liked this book. This one was not what you'd expect just by looking at the cover. So, Berlin is probably a book from World War II. You wouldn't be wrong. But it's a book about post-World War II, and there's a serial killer. So the serial killer is killing in post-World War II universe. And after he kills like these beautiful Aryan women, it kind of backtracks to go over that entire woman's life up until the point where she dies. So if you're really paying attention, you can put together who the killer is. I liked it. The more I think of it, the less I think I want to keep it. It's not something I actually like desperately want to reread, so I think I'm going to donate this as well. I'm on the fence with this one. It might remain on my shelf. It might go in a bag. I don't know. This one was actually really good. I'm going to keep this one. It's Dark Star by Alan Furst. And this one is about, it's got a heavily like Jewish character base. And they're Soviet spies, they're German spies, they're British spies. Like there's so many different spies, and it revolves around one person. His name is Andrei Shara, and he is a Soviet journalist who's enlisted into the NKVD to do like small operations, and it explains why he was used for the purpose. And it's a really good book. It goes through like his entire kind of adult life where he's working with the NKVD, and he's in charge of an operation in Paris, and he learns something he's not supposed to know, and he lets his superior officer know about it, and he ends up, we find out what he does with that information. But it is a really good story, and I'm keeping it because I loved it, and I will definitely reread this because it's one of those books where every time you read it, you're gonna like pick up something you missed, because there's a lot of information in this book. It's a lengthy, wordy story, but it was interesting, which I like in a book like this. It was interesting, and I will read this again. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but I will pick it up again at some point in my life and read it again. So I'm keeping it. Now, starting on the library books, this one is Bring Me Back, and this is by B.A. Paris. This one was good. This one I actually didn't expect it to be so good. You definitely don't catch on to what's actually happening until like towards the end of the book, where they're making it more obvious. It's a story about a guy named Finn, and he is very successful stockbroker or financial analyst maybe he's just an accountant. He does something with stocks throughout the entire book, so it made me thought. Well, he's very successful, and he meets a girl named Layla, and they fall desperately in love, and she's kind of like a wild child, and she wants to experience London, and he's worried that she's going to be bored with him, so he moved them to kind of like the country, but it's still kind of close to London, so she can take the train and stuff. And they end up going on a ski trip about maybe 13 months. Were they only together a year? They end up going on a ski trip, and she disappears. And he tells the police the truth, just not the whole truth. And because he has very, very violent tendencies, and he's so afraid that he accidentally killed her. So you're not sure what happens to her throughout the entire book until she starts contacting him, and you're still not sure like where she is, what she's done all this time, and it's not until the last like few chapters that it really like explains it, and it's like one of those things where it's like, wow, that was really well done. Because I didn't even I'm one of those people that tries to pick apart the plot and like see where it's going, and I didn't even see it until about 2/3 of the way through. I was like, oh, oh, I know. It's just really, really good. But yeah, so Layla goes missing, and Layla doesn't come back until he announces his engagement to her sister Ellen. So it's a very interesting book. I really liked it, and it kind of took like a cool kind of twist at the end, which I really, really liked. Alright, I also read this one. It's The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. I liked this one, but it's not a book that I would say, oh my god, you have to go out and read this book, because it's nice. This is about a woman. Her name is Anna. She's a child psychologist or psychiatrist. Can't remember which one. And she's an agoraphobe because something happens in her past where she suddenly can't handle being outside. And she's separated from her family. She talks to them all the time, like on the phone. And she witnesses someone being murdered in a house across the park from her, because all she does all day is sit at her windows and stares on her neighbors and spies on her neighbors. And she drinks while she's on medication. So no one takes her very seriously, and everyone just plays it as she's crazy. And she's so convinced this has happened, and she's trying to work to bring them to justice. And it takes a wild turn that was actually kind of interesting. And again, it took me about 2/3 of the book before I was like, oh my god, this is the killer. And it was good, don't get me wrong. And the chapters were nice and short, which I appreciate. But I don't think I would own it, only because the character of Anna is really freaking annoying. Like, really annoying. The last book I read is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. This one was good. I would probably want to buy this and read it again, because it's very interesting. It's all about this guy. His name is Alexander. He's a count, and this is right about the time where it's right after their civil war, where the rich people are killed and thrown in jail and stuff like that. And he's under house arrest at a hotel in Moscow. And he's there from his, like, 20s, like, late 20s, to his, like, 70s. He's there for his entire life. And he meets a young girl, and she becomes, like, one of his really, really good friends. Like, she's probably 5 when they meet. And she ends up growing up, moves out of the hotel, and drops in one day with her daughter because her husband was arrested, and she wants to go and be with him, but she can't bring her daughter because she's afraid to bring her until they're settled. So she leaves her with him. She never comes back. So he grows up with this child as his daughter, and it's all about his relationship with the people in the hotel, with his daughter, with political figures, and in the end, he manages, like, this great happily ever after kind of story, which is awesome. I really, really loved it, and I think I do want to purchase this because I really liked it. And as you can see from, like, the other books I've read, like Berlin and the Dark Star, they're all, like, very World War II, post-World War II era books. So I think I'm just, like, in that phase. Like, this one's right before the war starts. So it's right in that, like, time period. And there's these footnotes, which I actually kind of enjoyed reading. I really like this book. I think I would definitely purchase it. I think it's a newer one. Copyright 2016, so it's only 2 years old. If you like a historical fiction kind of book, you would really like this. But yeah. So those are all the books that I read in the month of September. I've done a lot of reading lately, and it's practically all I do. I have no life. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye!